Donkey
about
Kong is one of my
time you showed
all-time
up,
favorite
Fox.
Nintendo IPs.
You're the only
so
hope for
stands
our
to
world.
reason that I would also enjoy the
Every
spin-off,
single
Diddy
voice
Kong
clip
Racing,
in
the
Star
racing
Fox
game
64
featuring
is
Diddy
so
Kong
memorable
and
and
his
so
friends,
iconic. It practically
Banjo,
defines
Conqueror, and a
internet
couple of
culture.
others.
Do a
As
barrel
they
roll
race
is
to
so
save
iconic,
Timbers
in fact,
Island
that
from the
Google
evil
has incorporated
Whiz
it
Pig on
into
a
their search
number
engine. By
of-
typing in "do a
over a
barrel
number of
roll" into
tracks
Google,
across
your
5
screen
worlds.
will do a
The
barrel
fifth-
roll.
yes,
It
there
is
are
that
indeed
memorable,
5 worlds.
that
Those of you who
iconic,
have
and that
who
well
may
known.
not have
It
played
is
this in years,
a
who may not
huge
have
deal.
played this
Starbucks
since they were little
64
kids, may not be
is
aware.
probably not only
but there
just one of
actually
the
is a
best
fifth
games on
final
N64.
world.
Hidden
Probably one of
behind
the best known
a sheer
Nintendo
amount
games, period.
of
Like,
insane
probably due to its
difficulty.
length,
You can
probably due to
unlock
being
a fifth
very easy to
circuit
pick up and play.
with
Like,
more
I
tracks
find
and
it very, very
and a
difficult.
true final boss.
That
It is
people-
remarkably hard to get
even
to.
those who hate Nintendo, who have never picked up a Nintendo controller, can quote this game from start to finish, who are generally aware of what happens. It is probably one of the best known games of the 90s. It is just it's very very quick to get through, but it's so replayable and so fun that it's hard not to praise. And going back to this one, playing it again on stream for the second time, it really struck home. Like, talking about memories with the game, with fans, talking about like everything that the game delivers, like my favorite bits, my favorite lines, my favorite missions, talking about like how we first accomplished Katina, like how we talking about like all this stuff, like talking about favorite characters, making fun of Kat and Bill, like getting teary-eyed at the ending. Like, there's so much here. This really is the perfect example of a game that perfectly blends gameplay and story. The game opens up with a really good, engaging intro, giving you a general idea of the premise. This very short, 1 minute long segment in which it is explained to you through this narrator that Fox's father, James, was killed by Andross, who has now launched an invasion against the rest of the Lylat system, and it's up to Star Fox to take up arms and take him on. So it's although you're essentially trying to protect the peace, you're trying to protect the war on behalf of the Cornerian army, it's also a very personal vendetta. Like, Fox really, really hates Andross and really, really wants to shoot him down. And it's kind of made apparent that these two kind of hate each other in this one, with how Andross is openly taunting you as you approach Venom, like, you'll die soon, just like your father. Like, it's so well executed, but the game doesn't dwell on it. Like, the story is a story, and then you go into the gameplay. Like, you start off going down this pathway, going across the water, entering the city of Corneria, like fighting enemies along the way. And I've probably played this segment hundreds of times, and it's incredible, man. How I still have fun every single time. Like, keep in mind, this is the level that you play every single time that you boot the game up, and it is remarkable. This thing that I've played probably legit like every single time I've turned the game on can still be as fun and memorable as it was 20 years ago. I know every moment by heart. I know every line. I know the bosses. I can destroy them both in like 2 seconds. I know how to do everything in the levels. I get medals consistently. I adore this level, even after playing to death. This is a game I've played to death. I literally have all the medals in expert mode, right? Like, I've completely, truly, 100% completed this game, and I still play it and still pop it in. I talked a little bit, like, during the Soul Calibur 2 review, how it was something I hadn't played in years, right? It was something that, like, I had played a lot of when it first came out, loved it a lot, but then sort of fell off of it, and then sort of like rediscovered it as an adult, or sort of played it a little bit more as an adult. I never stopped playing Star Fox 64, right? Like, this game is so addicting, so fun, that it's a game that, like, I can go back to time and time again, like, probably at least twice a year, honestly, from start to finish. Like, obviously, I don't play every level every time, but I typically just go through the game, play whatever levels I want, and then go to the left side of Venom. Normally, I go through Macbeth. Normally, I tend to lean towards the left side, but, like, I do play the game very, very consistently. It is a lot of fun. Like every boss is unique. They're well designed. They all have unique attacks and animations. One of the things that really interests me about this game is that like I think it actually is a lot better made than something like R-Type, Gradius, or any of these other classic shmups on older consoles because the game is able to blend a wide variety of mission designs into its simplistic shoot 'em up format. Right? For example, during the Katina mission, you are trying to protect your base, your home base from invading forces. So you're trying to shoot down guys while avoiding shooting your own guys. While an enemy mothership comes down, and you have to figure out how to take it out. Like it's not exactly obvious how you do it. I think that's one of the things that I really like about this series. Actually, is that like for a first time player, it may not be obvious how like how you kill like specific bosses. I remember like struggling as a kid to beat the second boss. I could beat the first one, given enough time, but the second boss I kind of struggled with. The one with like the monkey. You gotta listen to that monkey. That guy. I couldn't beat him. I don't remember why. I think I struggled like just dodging his attacks or finding a weak spot or whatever. I guess back then I was so dumb that I didn't even know that like, oh, you shoot the glowing spot to hurt it. It's not a hard boss at all in hindsight. But I mean, lots of things that I used to struggle with in this game have become easy because I've just played them so many times. Like I breezed through Star Wolf. I remember like spending lots and lots of time trying to beat like the original Star Fox on Fortuna, right? The first one you're supposed to encounter, and like I used to not be able to beat them in time before the base exploded, and now I defeat them quite handedly on Venom, just as a routine thing. You know what I mean? Like it's something I do every single time I play the game. It's easy now, and this game, you always feel like you're getting better at it in a lot of ways. Like it's kind of remarkable. A lot like Star Fox Zero, in fact. I would say Star Fox Zero is actually better about this, but 64 makes you feel as if like, yeah, you can always get a higher score. You can always kill more guys. You can always do things better. You can always like avoid attacks. You can always beat this boss faster. Like there's so many things that come together that make playing this over and over again so addicting. Like I said, like the missions are incredibly varied, right? You can go from Sector X to the Sector Z, where you have to defend the Great Fox from missiles. You have to fight Star Wolf occasionally. You have to like use Landmaster missions occasionally. Like you have the on rails levels and like the all range mode levels. Like it's a lot more accessible and intuitive than something like Rogue Squadron, but at the same time, like it has layers of complexity. For example, you don't actually choose which level you go to. You have to complete certain mission objectives, and a lot of these objectives are kind of difficult to accomplish, especially for a first-time player, right? Like a first-time player wouldn't know, like, oh, maybe I should fly through all these rings and I'll go through this waterfall and then I'll fight like this hidden boss and go to the left. Like, no, they'll go on to the basic boss and go along the basic path to like the fake Andross, right? The game seems to be deliberately designed for like to push less experienced players to the right side, where they'll get the fake ending, right? Well, they'll get the fake out ending. Well, they'll get this idea that like Andross will return, and I think that's one of the things that really makes this game's ending so memorable, is that like it feels kind of like a secret. Like you don't really understand, I think, that when you finally get to Venom on the left side, that it's actually a completely different level, right? Like most people, I assume, would think that like they're just going to go through the same old Venom again, but it's not. Like the left side of Venom is a completely different experience, one with a completely different payoff, one where you apparently kill off Andross for good, and the game ends on a much less morbid note, right? Like the right side of Venom, I'm not sure if you remember this, considering how most people don't bother with the right side at all when they can do the left side. When you do the right side of Venom, like the game ends with this idea that like Andross is going to return and like cause more trouble. But on the left side, the world is at peace. The galaxy is at peace. To quote Super Metroid, it's remarkable. Like it's incredible how the game just pulls you in and makes you really appreciate small touches like that. Like again, like the relationships between the characters, the just everything that happens in this game. You feel grateful when a ally appears out of nowhere and helps you accomplish a task you otherwise would not have been able to do. Like you like doing these things. You feel great. There's nothing more wonderful than seeing that mission accomplished logo pop up on screen, or anything more frustrating than seeing mission complete when you are trying to go for a mission accomplished. Like even today, I think occasionally I mess up stuff like Sector Y or Sector X, right, where you have to go through the gates, because like I typically don't go down that way. If I deliberately try to go down that way for whatever reason, like if I want to like play Sector X but then go to the left side of Venom, like sometimes I mess up the gates and I kind of had to settle for going to the right side. Like there have been times where I've done that, and it's kind of interesting, like how Sector X is like this one level that has like, you know, all these different paths, two different secret exits, where like one where you can beat the boss quickly enough and move on to Macbeth rather than Titania, or you let Slippy get slapped down and you're forced to go into Titania instead, or you can go to the secret warp gate that takes you to Sector Z. It's the game is packed with cool secrets like that makes it, like, playing it for a real dedicated hardcore fan, incredibly addicting. And I think that's one of the things that Zero was kind of missing, is that like that feeling of discovery, that feeling of like really overcoming the game itself. You know what I mean? Like you have to accomplish a lot in order to like truly beat Star Fox 64. Like you have to beat these levels several times. You have to understand the objectives. You have to understand how the game works. You have to have the skill to pull it off, and it all comes together for you to go to Venom and take on Andross and defeat him, and then like just experience that 10 out of 10 ending. Like seriously, probably one of the best on N64. Like not even kidding. Like I love this ending. It is fantastic. So like everything about this game is perfect, right? Like the visuals have held up really well. I love the art style. I love like the designs of the mechs and the creatures and the planets, and I love the music. I came up on stream that like Star Fox is actually probably one of my favorite soundtracks. And it's such a shame, such a shame that we never got a real sequel. I love Star Fox. I love Star Fox Adventures. I love Zero, but like what I really want, like, is a real Star Fox Zero 2, like Star Fox 64 2. You know, like a game that's exactly like this, but with more weapons and with more missions and more characters. Like I just wanted the same thing again, and Zero came pretty close to delivering that feeling. But like I think at the end of the day, like Zero is basically its own thing. It's its own original take on the story, and that's not really what I wanted. I wanted a real follow up, and this is probably going to come up in my Star Fox Adventures retrospective that I'm working on at the moment. But I feel as if a large portion of why a large reason as to why we never got a real Star Fox Zero 2 was due to the failure of Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault, which kind of pushed us down this path of not getting any new Star Fox games for years, which has been very disappointing. With the recent release of Starlink featuring Star Fox content on Nintendo Switch, I am optimistic that the series is going to make some kind of revival. Like imagine Star Fox finally getting a new game on Nintendo Switch in 2021. We'll have to see if that happens. I'm sure it's going to happen eventually, but I definitely would like to see a game of this caliber be made again on modern hardware. Like this really is one of the greatest of all time, and I do truly believe that Nintendo has it in them to deliver a game that actually exceeds this one. I firmly believe that Nintendo can top Star Fox 64. It may be one of the best games of all time, one of my favorite games of all time, but I do think Nintendo can do more.